Good morning, good morning, good morning. Fourth grade scholars, come in, come through. So while you guys are grabbing your materials, your writing apparatuses, I am, of course, going to share our video for today. There we have it. And I am going to get it started. Perfect. Excellent. 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 Again, I love to start my videos with thanking our parents. Parents, all of you who reached out yesterday, thank you so much. Any questions or concerns that you have about the work, any questions or concerns that you have about what I am doing, please, please do not hesitate. Contact me and call me. And I enjoyed our conversation, Aiden. So please, I am always available. If you need anything, just call me and I will pick up. So today, again, we're going to start with our language arts. We're going to continue with our order of adjectives, So what I like to do, what I prefer to do, I love for us to annotate everything that we do. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right in and annotate our rule so that when we begin working out these questions, these sentences, we can refer back to our rules. So let me go ahead and do that. Close this right here. Perfect. Quantity 1. No, that's what I want to do. Let's try this again. Annotate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So those of you who are just joining us and you guys were not able to log in on last week, what we are working with is order of adjectives. So for this week, we're using the order of adjectives that's presented right here on your screen. And what makes the most sense in annotating this is by numbering each rule. So therefore, when we start working on our sentence, we're able to connect a number to the adjective. So quantity would be 1, quality or opinion would be 2, size would be number 3, age would be 4, shape is 5, color is 6, nationality, origin or material is 7. And then of course at the end we have our purpose or qualifier. What it is that our noun is doing would be number 8. So I am going to model the first 2. You guys know when you see this little guy right here, we're going to call him J. You are expected to do those sentences. So I want you guys to do 1, 2, and 3. Today you do not have to write the examples that we did together. 1 and 2, you do not have to present those examples that we did together, but I am expecting you to complete 1, 2, and 3 and take a picture of that and send it to me on Dojo. So let's look at sentence 1. So we have, here is a beautiful cloth red flag. I'm going to change the color of my pen. I don't want it red. Okay, so we have, here is a beautiful, cloth red flag. Immediately, I want to underline the adjectives. Again, you guys, we must annotate. And I want to show you what it is that we're annotating. So the first step in this is to annotate, underline my adjectives. So here's a beautiful cloth red flag. I am going to underline beautiful. That's an adjective. Cloth is an adjective because it's a material. And then red is also an adjective because it is a color and it's represented in our order of adjectives above. So now what I need to do is place a number over each adjective so that when I rewrite the sentence, I have the proper order of my adjectives. Here is a beautiful cloth red flag. Well, the first adjective that I see is beautiful. Where does the word beautiful place on my order of adjectives notes? It's an opinion. It's an opinion because someone can argue that. Someone else may say, no, it's not beautiful, it's quite ugly, right? So anything that can be argued or cannot be proven will be an opinion. So what I'm going to do over the word beautiful is write the number 2. There it is. Perfect. My next adjective is the word cloth. Cloth. Cloth is a type of material. It's a material. So I need to find where cloth fits in my order of adjectives note above. Is it number 1, quantity? Is it 2, quality? Is it 3, the size? Is it 4, the age? 5, the shape? 6, the color? 7, nationality, original material? Giving you a hint, purpose or qualifier. Cloth is a material, so I'm going to put number 7 above it. Right? My next adjective in the sentence is the color red. Oh, I gave you a hint. I didn't mean to do that. But the color red, the color red. So since I gave you the major hint, we know that red is 6. Perfect. So when you write it, when you rewrite the sentence, it would be placed in its correct order. So now we know that our sentence would be written as, I'll give you a moment to pause the video to write the sentence. We know that our sentence now would be read as, here is a beautiful red cloth flag. But there's something else that we're missing with this video. We're missing the comma. So after every adjective, it is very important that we separate the adjectives with a comma. And that's what I'm doing right here. Perfect. Now let's do number 2. I would like for you guys to pause the video and do number 2 by yourself, and then join me once you are done. You ready? Okay, so number 2 says, Justin, I'm using Justin. Hey, Justin. I'm using Justin as the example today. So Justin is wearing a yellow long jacket. Justin is wearing a yellow long jacket. So I am going to underline yellow because that's an adjective, and I'm going to underline long. That's an adjective. So now I need to place the appropriate number above the adjective that correlates with my adjectives. So I have yellow. Yellow is a color. So what number goes above yellow? Think time. If you chose 6, you are absolutely correct. You go, scholar. Now let's look at long, long, long. What would long be? Think time. If you said 3, a size, you're absolutely correct. Justin is wearing a long yellow jacket. If you look here, we have quantity, quality first, size, age, shape, color, nationality or material, purpose or qualifier. So if you follow that order of adjective that I have here, you should do great. Today, I want you to complete questions 1, 2, and 3. Again, you do not have to include 1 and 2 that we did together, but I am expecting for you to include 1, 2, and 3 in your work that you're going to present to Dojo. You are choosing the correct answer choice to complete the sentences, all right? So let's go ahead and move forward. Let me erase that. Perfect. Excellent. So we have been working on particular authors, poets, shall I say, I'm sorry. Last week we worked on Shel Silverstein, and what I thought would be really, really cool for this week is if we give fun facts about the authors that we are going to study. So last week we, again, talked about Shel Silverstein, and yesterday I gave you a fun fact about him. Today, the fun fact about Shel Silverstein is that one of Shel Silverstein's first jobs was selling hot dogs in Chicago. I was so excited to discover that yesterday. You guys know I am from Chicago and I love Chicago hot dogs. So to know that my favorite poet also sold my favorite food from Chicago just made me super, 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 super happy. Shel Silverstein did not finish college. He is a very successful and a world-renowned poet, and he did not finish college. So, fun facts about Shel Silverstein. This week, we are reading the poems and learning everything about Langston Hughes. There's Langston Hughes. Hi, Langston. Um, my fun fact today for Langston Hughes is, although he was born in Missouri, Langston Hughes moved to Lawrence to live with his grandmother, Mary Langston. Hughes primarily lived with his grandmother during his early childhood with his mother, while his mother moved about seeking jobs. So his mom moved around a lot to look for jobs. And while she was looking for jobs to take care of her family, Langston Hughes stayed with his grandmother, Mary Langston. So let me hear you go, Mary. You go, Mary, for taking care of one of our favorite poets, Mr. Langston Hughes. Today, what I want to do before we jump into our I can statement, give me a second, let me erase this piece right here. There you go. Okay, so today what I want to do before we jump into, okay, so before we jump into today's lesson, I want to go over yesterday's work. So I had the pleasure of talking to Aiden on the phone yesterday and really helping him with this part of the work on yesterday. So remember, we're using the acronym POETS, POETS, to help us truly and really understand what's going on in these different poems. And P stands for preview, O is for occasion, E is for emotion, T is for theme, S is for speaker. And if you look ahead, look above, I have the different questions that will help you to answer what each of the acronyms stands for. And of course, we're still working on poetry. So the big question, why do people write poetry? You will see that question there throughout this entire week. So let's go ahead and dive right into Harlem, the poem Harlem, written by Langston Hughes. What happens to a dream deferred? Yesterday, I discussed with Aiden, what does deferred mean? Well, deferred means to put to the side or to postpone, to let it sit for a minute and then go back to it. Your dreams are what you think about while you're sleeping. So what happens when you put your dreams or the things that you want to do in this world to be successful? What happens if you put it to the side? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? Or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load, or does it explode? So let's go ahead and jump right into our acronyms, poetry, so that we can dissect what this poem means. And today, of course, is our second read using Harlem. Let's jump right into this. Move this up. So the first thing we need to do is look at P. Read the title and notice illustrations, number of stanzas. So we know that this poem has 10 lines, it has 3 stanzas, and we know that the title is Harlem. And this is what Aiden and I worked on yesterday as well. He was able to tell me that we had 10 lines and 3 stanzas, and we know that the title of this poem is Harlem. Perfect. Thank you, Aiden. What's happening? Or what's the topic? Well, what's happening in this story, in this poem? As a reader, we have to think about our dreams and what it means to postpone or delay the thing. What's really great about this poem, it starts with a question. What happens to a dream that's deferred? So it tells me what this poem is all about. It's about, again, readers having to think about their own dreams and what happens to your dreams if you postpone them or delay them. And Langston Hughes does a wonderful job explaining what happens, what he feels that happens to the dreams that you do not work on. E, emotions. What feelings are created? Who is feeling them? What is the tone? So, what feelings are created? Who's feeling them? So, as we were reading this poem on yesterday, what feelings did you feel as a reader? Uncertainty, despair. Because the question is, what happens to a dream deferred? And he begins to answer them. Everything that we read was kind of negative. Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? Dry up sounds very negative, or fester like a sore. The word sore sounds negative. Rotten meat sounds negative. So it sounds like a sense of despair, a sense um, of uncertainty. If you do not follow your dreams, this is possibly what could happen. And there's nothing in this poem that sounds positive. So we chose the theme as being despair or uncertain. What is the lesson you can learn? This lesson, racism and oppression, cruel treatment. Langston Hughes does a wonderful job during this era, the Harlem Renaissance, when African American was not given the same privileges as white Americans to seek opportunities that they want to seek. So as a result, we had the Harlem Renaissance, we had young men like Langston Hughes writing poems about what's really happening to African American during this time. It was racism. Although the civil rights movement was over, we still had schools that were segregated. We still had racism. We still had African Americans not able to receive jobs and go on job fairs or job interviews like their white counterpart. So there was a form of racism and oppression. And oppression means cruel treatment. So the thing, what is happening? What are we learning? We're learning what really happened during that time through the eyes of Langston Hughes, racism and oppression. Who is the speaker? Well, Shel Silverstein last week with Sick, we noticed that the poet used the words I, me, you know, how she wanted to explain that she was really, really sick to stay home from school. We saw all of those first person point of view type of words. Well, this right here, I don't see that. It sounds like someone is speaking to me. Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun or fester like a sword? I don't know who's talking, but it does sound like someone else is speaking to me. Does it stink like a rotten meat or crust and sugar over? So when you are not able to point out who's talking, but you know that someone's talking to you through the words that's being used, it's called a narrator. The narrator is the person who's telling the story, telling the poem. So go ahead and look at your notes from yesterday and look at what we have. And if you need to make any changes, please do. If you have any questions about what you chose, inbox me on Dojo so therefore we can have a great, rich, loving conversations about it. Okay. So let's jump in our I can statement. Again, you guys, pause the video. Pause the video if you need to and spend some time looking over your work. Our I can statements. I can identify similes and metaphors in context and accurately interpret their meaning. And again, essential questions, why do people write poetry? So again, I can identify similes and metaphors in context and accurately interpret their meaning in context. So we're not going to spend too much time looking at similes in isolation. We're going to dissect our poem Harlem because today is our second read to interpret the meaning of the poem and the similes that Langston Hughes infused in them. And then essential question, why do people write poetry? So simile and metaphor. We're going to today talk about simile. What is a simile? What is a simile? I'll give you guys a moment to read this over. So simile, perfect. A figure of speech in which things are compared using the word like or as. Again, so simile is a figure of speech, meaning that you don't really mean what you're saying. It means something else. There's a hidden meaning in it. So we're going to go ahead and explore a few of those. So a figure of speech in which things are compared using the words like or as. So the example that I have here, I'm using Harlem, dry up like a raisin in the sun. We know that the poem is talking about dreams, and Langston Hughes says dreams. He's referring to dreams, and he says that when they're deferred, they dry up like a raisin in the sun. Well, think time. Do you think Langston Hughes was truly talking about a raisin drying up in the sun? Or was he talking about something else? Did he mean something else? So go ahead and think about that. Was Langston Hughes truly specifically, literally speaking about a raisin that he takes outside and allow dries in his hand in the sun, or did that mean something else? Think time. You're correct. He did not literally mean a raisin drying up in the sun. It meant something else, and that's figurative language. And he used a simile to best explain what he was talking about, to best convey his meaning. So what I have down here, dry up like a raisin in the sun, is basically suggesting that dreams are forgotten over time. So not only are we going to identify the similes, we really need to begin discussing what the similes actually mean. So therefore, you're better able to understand the poem. So again, this slide right here talks about simile. It gives a definition, and we know that a simile is a figure of speech in which things are compared using the word like or as. You will see the word like or as in any literature if the author, the poet, decides to use a simile. And the simile that I wanted to use as an example was Dry Up Like a Raisin in the Sun by Langston Hughes. And we know that in that poem, he's talking about dreams and what happens once you defer them. And he answered that question by saying, they dry up like a raisin in the sun. But we know that he's not literally talking about a raisin in the sun. He's talking about dreams that are forgotten over time. This is what it feels like, or this is what it could possibly look like figuratively. Dreams that are forgotten over time. Just like a raisin that's forgotten in the sun over time, it dries up. So let's look at some examples of similes. I do not want you to look at the blue section. I want you to look at only the red section because we're only talking about similes today. So please definitely pause the video so therefore you're able to take the notes here. Similes I have for the first example, her heart is like gold. I see the word like. We know that her heart is being compared to gold. We know that we're not literally saying that her heart is gold. Obviously, you can't have a heart that's truly gold because that just won't work. But we can compare it by saying that the heart is like gold. And now we need to think about what we know about gold. Gold is solid, gold is pure, gold is beautiful. So we can easily say that the person who's being compared to gold, the person's heart, that person is very solid, that person is very pure, that person is very loving, that person is very cherished, just like gold. Let's look at the second one. The world is like a stage. I wonder what the poet meant by that. The world is like a stage. In order to understand that, you would have to discuss what a stage. What do we know about a stage, a drama stage? Well, that's where people go and act and pretend to be other characters. They hide their feelings when they're acting. So, what do you mean by the world is like a stage? Think time. He eats like a pig. In order to answer and discuss what that means, well, we have to discuss what do we know about pigs? How do they eat? They're messy. They eat anything. So, if he eats like a pig, do you think he eats carefully? Do you think he's very selective with his eating? No. He eats like a pig. So we're not saying that he's a pig. We're saying that he eats anything and he's very messy, like a pig. You are like a rock. Your eyes are like sunshine, poor as dirt. So take a minute, pause the video, and begin thinking. You do not have to write anything down, but I want you to begin thinking through what each of those similes mean. You will have to know or start having conversations about a pig, a rock, sunshine, and dirt. which tells you what's actually being said in the similes. So please pause the video and begin thinking through those examples. So this is the second read of A Dream Deferred. Remember, yesterday was our first read, and we completed the strategy Poets, Poets, to help us understand the poem Harlem by Langston Hughes. Today, we're going to dissect the simile. So if you can set your paper, let me move this to the side. If you can set your paper up as you see the paper set up here, we have a total of 5 similes in this poem. We have a total of 5 similes in this poem. So I did the first one for you. So if you can set your paper up, this is what I'm asking you guys to present on Dojo. Oh, I forgot my little J character there. Oops, I'm sorry. Make sure I include that tomorrow. But if you can set your notebook, your paper up this way, because again, we have 5 similes that we're going to look for in the poem, and you guys are going to explain what it is that's meant by them. We have our big question at the top. Of course, we want to continue discussing our big question, our name, and our simile. Perfect. So, second read, let's begin reading Langston Hughes, A Dream Deferred. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? Or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat? Or crust and sugar over like a syrupy syrup? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load. Or does it explode? So again, we have 5 synonyms in this sentence, and we're looking for something that's being compared to something else using the word like or as. So the first simile that I have is in line 3. And I included dry up like a raisin in the sun. Dry up like a raisin in the sun. So we have it here. Dry up like a raisin in the sun. Perfect. And so I put that down. I have my first simile. I went ahead and wrote the example, drive like a raisin in the sun. And now I'm going to explain what it means. In my opinion, it's suggesting that the dream is merely forgotten over time. This is what I think dry up like a raisin in the sun means. So what I want you guys to do today is to find the other similes. We got 3, 4, 5. And we're looking for words like. We're looking for like. We're looking for like. And there's some more examples as well. I want you to go ahead and look for like. And I want you to go ahead and write those examples down on your similes page. But I want you to interpret what you think it means. What do you think it means? So the first one that I gave you was dry up like a raisin in the sun. I know it's a simile because I see the word like. And I know we're talking about dreams, and this sentence compares a dream to being a raisin in the sun. But I didn't just list my simile, I also gave what I think that simile means. So I said it suggested that the dream is merely forgotten over the time. Why it just says that it's forgotten over the time, just like a raisin that's left outside in the sun. It's forgotten over time. You don't even remember that it's out there, but it still dries up. I want you on your own to do the same for 2, 3, 4, and 5. Take an image of that and share that with me on Dojo. And then on tomorrow, we'll go over your answers. So let's go ahead and jump here. Okay, wait a minute. So again, I definitely want to continue to shout out our scholars who are doing an amazing job on the work on yesterday. We are really moving in, pushing in. Thank you so much. I do see that you guys are coming in. If you have any questions about it, please have your parents or your moms, your dads, your family members, your cousins, whomever to contact me if you have any questions about the work. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Love you. Talk to you later. Bye.